My name is Zach Arnold. I'm a Hollywood film and television editor, a documentary director, father of two, an American Ninja Warrior in training, and the creator of Optimize Yourself. For over 10 years now, I have obsessively searched for every possible way to optimize my own creative and athletic performance, and now I'm here to shorten your learning curve. Whether you're a creative professional who edits, writes, or directs, you're an entrepreneur, or even if you're a weekend warrior, I strongly believe that you can be successful without sacrificing your health or your sanity in the process. You ready? Let's design the optimized version of you. Hello and welcome to the Optimize Yourself podcast. If you're a brand new optimizer, I welcome you and I sincerely hope that you enjoy today's conversation. If you are inspired to take action after listening today, why not tell a friend about this show and help spread the love? And if you're a longtime listener and Optimizer OG, welcome back. Whether you're brand new or you're a seasoned vet, if you have just 10 seconds today, it would mean the world to me if you clicked the subscribe button in your podcast app of choice. Because the more people that subscribe, the more that iTunes and the other platforms can recognize this show, and thus the more people that you and I can inspire to step outside their comfort zones to reach their greatest potential. And now on to today's show. There's at least one point in our lives when we make the stark realization that we no longer enjoy what we do. The passion has long since gone, and we are only there for the paycheck. This is what I call the comfort trap. There are few discoveries more terrifying in your career than when you realize that you are just comfortable. Once you decide that it's time to make a major transition, you then have to confront the fact that you've most likely spent much, if not all of your career, making stuff, yet you've never focused on the soft skills of selling yourself. And in the 21st century gig economy, whether you like it or not, you are a business. And your business is selling your creative services. It doesn't matter how awesome your work is if nobody knows that you are awesome. My guest today is editor of 20 years and also a longtime friend and colleague, Joaquin Elizondo, who has adapted to change faster than most people that I know, and he has transitioned between multiple genres to land where he is now editing projects that fulfill him. In our conversation, Joaquin and I talk about his journey across multiple mediums, genres, and even different parts of the country to land his dream job editing Narcos Mexico. We discuss the mindsets that he uses to combat perfectionism and procrastination, which, by the way, in my opinion, are frankly one and the same thing. And we also go deep into the reasons why helping others and building communities is so necessary now more than ever in our current times. Whether you were looking for a mentor, career advice, or frankly, a new best friend, Joaquin is an amazing resource who's also the founder of Hollywood Editing Mentor, which is an amazing site that I highly recommend for anyone that's looking to escape the comfort trap, where you can instead level up your soft skills as an assistant or as an editor, where you can learn how to build your network, where you can get career transition guidance, and so much more. If today's interview inspires you to step up your networking game so you can continue to build relationships with people that you admire who can open the right doors to the next stage in your career, I am excited to share with you my new, improved, and vastly expanded Insider's Guide to Writing Amazing Outreach Emails. In this extensive guide, I will help you completely transform your outreach email game so you can build a networking strategy and reach out to the right people so you can seek much needed advice, connect with a potential mentor, set up meetings and shadowing opportunities, and even get referred for your next gig. In this upgraded version, I have also included a step-by-step template that breaks down every single piece of your outreach email from subject line all the way to the final salutation. And I also provide a video tutorial with a before and after email teardown, so you understand what a great outreach email should and should not include. To download your free guide and take your outreach emails to a completely new level, visit optimizeyourself.me/email guide. All right, without further ado, my conversation with editor Joaquin Elizondo, made possible today by our amazing sponsors, Evercast and ErgoDriven, who are going to be featured just a bit later in today's interview. To access the show notes for this and all previous episodes, as well as to subscribe so you don't miss the next inspirational interview, please visit optimizeyourself.me/podcast. I'm here today with Joaquin Elizondo, who is a film and television editor, and now I'm so excited to say the creator and founder of Hollywood Editing Mentor. And the one thing I want to add to your resume that you didn't add in your introduction, you also have the distinction of being the one person in Los Angeles that has known me longer than anyone else, including my wife.
Oh, man.
You and I go all the way back to the University of Michigan many, many, many years ago. So I'm very excited that after all these years, we're finally getting this conversation on the record. So I appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm glad to, finally make it here on your podcast. And go blue. I do have to say it this time. I'm not going to miss it. We won't say how many years it's been, right? But, it's been a while.
We might go. Let's just say that it's been a long time. But yeah, our story goes all the way back to you and I were in a scripted, I think it was like a multicam comedy class, junior or senior year of college. And we ended up being in the same group, writing, shooting, directing, acting. And we just got to hang out and learn from each other and became friends. And then after college, we diverged in different directions. I've been in Los Angeles literally since 6 days after walking across the aisle and graduating, have lived in LA since 6 days after that. And you, on the other hand, went in a very different path, and you're still relatively new to this side of the world and this side of the industry. So let's start from the beginning. College graduation, you want to get into filmmaking. Where do you go first?
Well, after graduation, I grew up in San Diego and Tijuana. I grew up along the border. I mean, I had always, I lived in Tijuana, Mexico, all my life, and would commute to San Diego side, to the U.S. side, to go to school and work. So when I came after Michigan, I came back to Tijuana with my parents, and I at that time I wanted to be a DP, director of photography. I did not know where to start, where to look if I wanted to work in that. I just did not know. So the first job that I got was as a cameraman / editor on a local news station in San Diego, a Spanish language station. And I was there for about 3 years. And then, I realized that it was just not creatively fulfilling. Even though I learned a lot, really was very hands-on. I learned about using, camera work, editing. It was still tape to tape at that time. NLEs were fairly new. And engineering, calibrating monitors, doing live shots. I learned a lot. I think I was even a reporter for a couple of times. But I wanted more. It was just, like I said, not creatively fulfilling. After that, I worked in commercials and promos in San Diego still. And that was for about 3 years. And again, after those 3 years, I was like, man, I want more. This is not challenging me. Like, I want to work on bigger projects. I still wanted to work in film. I just, again, did not know who to contact, where to look. And I just really was focused on making money, right? It was easy to get a paycheck. I was a staff employee. And I was very comfortable. It was a union job, actually, that I had in San Diego. So, it was pretty great. But after 3 years being working at that, TV station, doing promos and commercials, I knew I wanted more. And so I quit my job. I went traveling, backpacking in Southeast Asia, and then moved to New York City with no contacts. Just went out there and see what I could find. I had to kind of first work in, again, local TV because I just needed to make money, right? And I didn't know the freelance life. I was always a staff employee. So that was difficult, just kind of learning how to work as a freelancer. Eventually, just started hustling, getting on bigger, projects, say like for HBO Sports, doing stuff for Bravo, NBC, and little by little, just, again, I was shooting and editing and just started working on bigger projects. Eventually, I started just being the lead editor on Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen on Bravo. And I think that's where I realized kind of like, what, I like editing. I don't have to carry around gear, especially in the humid New York summer or in the winter. It was great. And I just kind of connected more with editing. I did a independent documentary for my friend where I really just I realized how much I enjoyed editing, and I realized I was not connecting with videography, or being a cameraman anymore. And that was kind of weird because I had to realize I had to accept that even though that was what I wanted to do, I was connecting more with editing. And it was sad and it was great also at the same time, right? So I was in New York for about 5 years, and I got tired of New York. I love it. I just can't live there anymore. I'm from Southern California. I want to be back in LA because obviously the work is there, right? And so I decided to move to LA again. Had no job. I was a little bit confident though, maybe because I had a successful career in New York. I felt like I could just come to LA and I could just start working. Boy, how wrong was I? It was very difficult. The first year in LA was extremely difficult finding work. And so when I got to LA, I could not find work in what I was doing, say like in like talk shows and just unscripted stuff. And so I just said to myself, you know what? If I'm here, I'm not finding anything, I might as well try to get into scripted, right? If I'm not really getting any work, I might as well just focus my attention on getting into scripted. Well, how do I do that? I still did not know how to do any of that. Like I've always told you, Zach, when you did the Fitness in Post, program and podcast, that definitely was helped me a lot in finding out what steps to take in order to get into scripted. From there, I just kind of, I guess just started hustling. And one of the big things, I think most important things that I did was to start getting on indie features, right? And started getting that experience. I know that at one point I helped you out with doing a project, and you said, "Hey, I think a job came your way, a short film," and you said, "Hey, man, I want to show, I'm grateful for what you did for me. I'm going to pass this along to you. I'm not guaranteeing you anything because you don't have the experience, but you know what? I'm putting your name in the hat." Well, I got that job. It was editing a short film. It was an action short film, really cool fight sequence that it had. I had never cut anything remotely close to that. Somehow, director Simon Cassinides, I love that guy, gave me the opportunity to cut that film. And that certainly opened up opportunities for me. It didn't happen right away, but down the line, it really did. At the moment, I didn't realize what it could do for me, right? Because it was just this little short film. It was produced really well, but I just didn't think that would lead anywhere. Of course, that gets me then onto a union feature film assisting, but simply because I knew the workflow for the Alexa Mini. I learned that on that job, and so that the editor hired me on this union feature film. It was tier 0, but I couldn't pay my bills, but it got me the right experience. And then it kind of started snowballing from there. I just started making better decisions as far as like what projects to get involved in, and that was really working on narrative projects, even though they were low budget. But started working in that. Eventually, just started filling in on more union jobs, a week here, 2 weeks there, and just started going until eventually I landed Narcos Mexico, and that was my first, full season of a scripted TV show, and then was able, as an assistant, and then was able to get bumped up pretty quickly to editor on that show. But basically, what happened was that I went through a lot of mistakes. I committed a lot of mistakes. I learned from them, and it was just kind of trial and error, see what worked. And I met a lot of people. I mean, the post community is great in LA. They helped me a lot. I certainly did not do this alone. And so after all that, this pandemic hits. I was working on a show, obviously gets cut off. And I said to myself, hey, what can I do right now to create some type of income? I mean, I did not work for like 6 months, so I knew it was going to be a while to create some income, and also to just create something for myself, right? A project, like a personal project that I could use to help people, because a lot of people helped me on my journey. And basically what I came up with was Hollywood Editing Mentor. And it was based on my experience of trying to break into scripted, coming to LA, not knowing anyone, and figuring things out kind of by myself, and by just simply, honestly, committing mistakes, right? And so I'm taking all that knowledge that I gained from the mistakes that I made, and also just talking to people, all the networking that I did, and now create a program to help people who are trying to do the same thing, who are trying to either break into scripted or advance their careers in post-production in general. I've been working, like I said, I started local news. I did promos, commercials, talk shows, sports. So I've been, in very many areas of post-production, right? So this doesn't necessarily apply to just, say, scripted television, even though that's what I work in right now. I've only been in scripted for 3 years. But I've been doing this for almost 20 years, working in broadcasting and media, and so I can certainly talk about many other exit areas of post production. But the idea is basically for me to help people, because I understand what that feels like, what that journey feels like. I know what it feels like to be out there alone, and I know what we often just need someone to guide us, and so that's what I want to do for people. People have helped me out a lot. I've had a lot of mentors myself. And so that is what I'm trying to do with Hollywood Editing Mentor.
Well, as a fellow podcaster, you clearly know what you're doing. You don't need me. So that was great. Thanks so much for being on the show today. You told your story. I didn't need to say a word. I just stand back like, like all the beats, covering all the bases. I love it. However, there's a whole lot in there that I want to unpack. We're going to come back to this idea of where you are now, this idea that you can't do it alone. Because I think it's especially in post-production, it's this way universally, just human existence and trying to achieve any goal. But in post-production especially, we feel the sense of isolation because our jobs are so solitary. We're stuck in a dark room by ourselves. We assume that we have to do it by ourselves and everybody else has figured it out but us. Why can't everybody else seems to be getting the jobs that they want. Why can't I figure it out? Nobody does it alone. And you take it upon yourself to realize that I want to be that person that people can come to learn what are the steps that I took where you might be stuck. I was also once stuck in that place. Let me help you navigate it. So I want to come back to this place. But I first want to hit the rewind button. There's a few different spots that I really want to highlight that I think are going to be so important for the people that are listening. I want to go all the way back to about 3, 4, 5 years after graduation. You used an incredibly important word. You just kind of threw it out there and you don't even realize you said it. But this is a really detrimental, dangerous word for people to use. And you said, I was comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I was job to job, full-time, had the paycheck coming in, had the money coming in. I was comfortable. And comfort is death, in my opinion. If I'm comfortable, it's time to make a different life choice because that means that I've wrung everything that I have out of this opportunity. So a lot of people get stuck in comfort. They say, well, I've got the mortgage, I've got the car payment, maybe I even have kids. I'm too comfortable and I'm too stuck to be able to make a transition. So what do you think it is about you that when you were in that position of comfort, there was some specific thought or something about the way you're wired that said, nope, I'm not going to stay with comfort. I want to embrace and go towards the discomfort.
Yeah, I think, I think it has a lot to do, honestly, with my upbringing. For me, from a young age, I was taught to always kind of think big, right? I mean, like, that's just how my family is, my parents. One of the things is, for example, like, as a kid, like, I mean, I talked about college, going to a big college as a young child. I mean, my uncle once took me to Yale University, like when I was in, I don't know, elementary school or something, just to go see it, right? They're like, you got to dream big. I think it comes from there. I came back to, when I was in San Diego, I had an uncle who was, obviously, he's one of my mentors. He's always guided me kind of in my career. And so he was living in New York. And I remember visiting him. I would visit him every year. And one day I was in Bryant Park, like in October, I remember, because October was my favorite time of the year in New York. And I was there in Bryant Park with him. And I was looking around, this perfect fall day. And I said to myself, like, I want to be here. I want to be in this big city. I just have always big dreams or big goals, right? I mean, I can't be, even though I was very comfortable in San Diego, like I said, I was, like I said, was making good money and I was working in kind of what I wanted to do. I mean, in broadcasting, but deep down inside, I knew I was going to regret it down the line if I never made the move. I always have that in my mind. I think always like not wanting to regret things. Like I want to try it. If I fail, then I failed, but I can always say I did it. All this honestly comes from just simply my family. I think my upbringing, like I said. And so I was there in New York and I said to myself, you know what? I got to do it. I just got to leave it behind. I can't make it perfect. I can't, wait till I get the job. I just need to go back to San Diego, quit my job, and then move on. Just go for it. Jump. Close your eyes and jump. And so that's what I did. And that's where things started. It was not easy. I'll tell you this right now. It was not easy. I went through some tough times, but it was the best decision that I ever made in my life, honestly.
And then I love that you were in New York City at some point and you're thinking, not big enough. I think now I need to go to Los Angeles and I need to make this even harder and more uncertain, right?
Right.
So talk to me a little bit more about first landing in Los Angeles and realizing, oh boy, this is not going to be as easy as I thought. This is a much bigger ocean than I anticipated.
Yeah, I got to say, I think, a little bit overly confident leaving New York. I'll accept it because it went really well eventually. I was very comfortable in New York. I could have stayed there and it would have been really comfortable. Honestly, I'm from Southern California, and I knew that's where I wanted to be. And that's why I left. But I'll say this. For me, once I did that big move to New York City, I realized that fear was gone, right? I did it. I took that step. I jumped. I closed my eyes and jumped, and I realized, oh, wait a minute. It's fine. I'm here. Sure, it's a lot of work, but everything is pretty okay. So that, I think, to me, like I said, got me over that fear of being adventurous, trying new things, just going for it. So when I moving to LA, I knew I wanted to be there. When I got there, and I got so many rejections in LA, man. I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm like, wow. Like I even thought about like what would be plan B, because the first year was terrible. I could, even the stuff that I was doing in New York, the same type of jobs, like I could not get them in LA. No one was hiring me. It was terrible. And so I did question my abilities myself. I mean, I like I said, I was already looking for plan B, but then I realized that, no, man, I don't want to do anything else. Like, this is what I love doing, and I have to make it work. I'm going to figure it out. But of course, I always had, my support team or like my family, friends around me saying, you got this, right? Because by myself, I really broke down at times. I was close to quitting. And so if it wasn't for all these people around me, this community, also, I got to say, the post community in LA, like, I couldn't have done it. So that's why it's important for people to surround you and to support you, and for you to go out there and look for that. Say, hey, I need support. I need help. I need someone to guide me. I think it's very important.
Yeah. I mean, clearly you and I are on the same page when it comes to support and community and providing that support and mentorship and whatnot. There's a lesson in here that I want to extract that I teach in my coaching program. I'm assuming you probably teach something similar. When people ask me, like, well, what is it that made you so successful? Like, you've worked on all these shows and now you're on Cobra Kai and yada, yada, yada. There's nothing about me that's any more special than you or anyone else that does this job. But there's one thing that I think is the contributor to my ability to be successful in this industry or choose any goal, whether it's as, batshit crazy as becoming an American Ninja Warrior. What I'm good at is failing faster than everyone else. I fail spectacularly fast. I jump in, I get it wrong, I figure it out, I iterate, and I do it again. And I think that's something that you embrace as well, where you said, it wasn't perfect, I didn't have the job lined up. And I think so many people are waiting for things to be perfect. There's this idea of ready, aim, fire. And one of my favorite sayings from Joe DeSena, who's the founder of the Spartan Race, and that's actually one of the first times you and I met back in person, was we ran a Spartan Race together. But he says, fire, aim, ready. So you just fire, then you figure it out. And that's what you did. You said, I don't need to have the perfect job. I don't need to be in the perfect position. I'm just going to go and I'm going to figure it out. And I'm going to be okay with failing. And I think so many people are afraid of that they stay stuck and they stay comfortable.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I totally agree with you. And, it's the same thing with this Hollywood editing mentor program. When I started it, I was not going to wait again for things to be perfect. I just started it. I'm building the website. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. So yeah, it goes back to that when I left for New York, that to me, I got over all that fear. And from then on, I just took risks. I just decided that, I'm not going to wait around for things to be perfect. I'm just going to go and get it myself. And if I fail, then perfect. It's a learning opportunity. And I think that just simply, for me in general, that applies to just my life in general. I just, that's how I learn. I have to try it and then see, I just have to try it. And if it doesn't work, then yes, I'll just go back, like you said, and I'll figure it out. And then I figured it out. It's good. Move on to the next thing. But yes, I agree with you. I think a lot of people, yes, are afraid of that. Don't have necessarily that mentality. And I got to say, at some point I didn't either. But I just had to, like I said, I say it all the time. It's like I just had to close my eyes and just jump. That's really. I don't know if I want to say as simple as that, but it's just kind of, it's because it's that fear, right, of the unknown. But in the end, just, and that's why I'm here to tell people, and just probably you as well, I'm sure, it's like, hey, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine, but you just got to take that step. You're going to be okay.
I think that so many people get stuck in this idea of being a perfectionist. It's not perfect yet. And perfectionism is just another way to spell procrastination in my mind. It's just an excuse because you don't want to overcome a certain amount of fear. And I used to be the same way. Like everything had to be perfect and I had to have all my ducks in a row before I would do anything. And I lived in this state of fear. And I'd spent my whole life being top of my class, like doing everything right, always known as the top student or the top worker, whatever it was, which is great, but it puts so much pressure on you to perform and never exhibit that you actually fail and you're human. And once I started to embrace failure, it actually got really fun. And now I just love to fail because I learn so much faster and it's so freeing. But until you've let yourself fail purposely and you turn failure into a habit, you're scared of it because you want everything to be perfect. And like you're the perfect example. Once you turn failure into a habit, man, you just start to move fast.
So it's so true, man. I know it sounds weird to say, right? To be like so comfortable with failure, but no, it just makes sense because once you do, you get over that fear and you just go for it, man. Things will line up. Honestly, it might take work. It usually does.
Always, it always does. I just want to make the caveat: 100% of the time, it's going to take a lot of it.
Which now I understand. What you were talking about putting all this work because it is work. But you know what? Look, if you want these things, I mean, it's everything that's worth fighting for is going to require work. Honestly, it applies to our careers, our relationships, to anything. That's what it is. And so now I'm just conditioned. I mean, I've always been a hard worker. That's how, again, going back to my upbringing. But now it's like just kind of eliminating that fear. It's so liberating.
Well, talking about this idea of failing and moving fast, there's a couple of fun things that I want to point out for you that you might not be aware of, but I'm very well aware of. If you were to take our paths, because really we were standing at the starting line at essentially the exact same day, the same year, we went in very different directions, right? And we're here now. And you can look at my path, look at yours, and you can compare the two. But one thing I'd like to point out is that you got a credit on a Netflix show before I did. So there's that. And now that you're podcasting, and by the way, everybody that's thinking, oh, podcasts, well, that's not hard. You just got to record somebody on a microphone and upload the MP3 file. Not easy, which is something that you and I talked about when you first started. It took me 17 episodes just to get somebody on the show that wasn't a buddy of mine in my hiking group. And in 7 or 8 episodes, you already have multiple Emmy winners. So once again, you've beat me to the punch. So I don't even know where we're going to both be in 5 years from now. Because like the curve is just shooting straight up for you right now.
Well, I mean, it's like, this has been very fascinating to see how Hollywood Editing Mentor has taken off and how people have been receptive to it. Honestly, for me, I talked about this with my friend Augie about this idea of no wasted work. I've done so many things in broadcasting and in media. I honestly back in the day wanted to be a radio host, radio DJ. Like back in the day, I did radio at WCBN and at U of M. I had my own radio show. Like I said, I was a cameraman. I've learned all these skills, right? So that I can apply to creating this program, right? I can just simply do it. I can do a lot of stuff myself. So I've been able to kind of move it along. I don't have to really depend on a lot of people. So I can just kind of, move it. But I think, say with regard to like the podcast with the guests, I've been able to build a network here in LA pretty quickly. And so, I'm grateful to know a lot of these people and to become friends. I've always enjoyed talking to people. I like making new friends. I'm always curious to hear more than anything, people's stories, right? I like to learn. I like to soak up information. And that's the thing about, Hollywood Editing Mentor Program and just in general, how I learn. This is the approach that I take. I learn from other people, like their experiences, right? And what I learn is that I can take bits of information from everyone, see how you did it, because there's no set path to doing this, or maybe really anything. Everyone has to find out their own path, discover their own path. There's no set formula. And so what I learned was that I could have to take kind of bits of information from people and see what works for me, for my personality, my work ethic, everything. And that's how I've, taken that information and then kind of say, in this case, broke into say scripted And that's kind of the approach that I take also with my mentorship program. It's this, and that's the disclaimer that I get. It's like, hey, there's no way of doing this, but I can just tell you what I did, what I learned from it, and just take what you can, what you find useful from this. And then, of course, we can talk about your situation. I can help you and guide you along the way. But in the end, you have to figure out what works for you. And honestly, a big lesson for me, I know we share this, interested in fitness, obviously. I learned a lot from exercising. Like to me, I mean, when I still run, but when I started running, doing half marathons, I injured myself a lot. And I used to follow a lot of, read a lot of articles on what to do, how, like say what to eat, how to train, this and that. And it's, those things work for certain people, right? But my body was reacting differently to those things. I had to find out what worked for me. And I injured myself again, committing mistakes. I had a lot of injuries, but I learned. And finally I said, all right, I see what you're saying here. I'll take this. I see what you're saying here. I'll take that. And then finally, decided what works for me.
Very, very similar to my approach as well. It's eerie how much you and I have in common. We could not have more different upbringings. But as far as just the way that we're wired, there are so many similarities. It's downright eerie. What I'd like to get into more now is specifically Hollywood Editing Mentor, and I want to do it from a couple of different directions. We could easily go down the rabbit hole forever on assistant editing and TV editing and all that stuff, and I want to direct people to your site and your story if they want to go deeper into that. But there are two aspects that I want to look at with Hollywood Editing Mentor. One is going to be you making the transition from an artist to entrepreneur, because I think there have been a lot of people over the last 7 to 8 months that have had this stark, terrifying realization, oh my God, my entire livelihood is dependent on other people's projects. Now what do I do? And as a freelancer, that fear is always there. That's not new to the pandemic. The pandemic was just throwing gasoline on something that was already apparent, which is I can only support myself when other people need me to work on their stories and their projects. And you decided, you know what? I'm going to figure something else out and I'm going to build something from the ground up. So I want to first talk about that. Then we're actually going to talk about the program. But first, it's going to be that transition from artist to entrepreneur. So a lot of people that I've talked to that have reached out to me, I've had this conversation countless times. They all think the same thing. Well, how can I help anybody? I'm not an expert. Like I nobody's going to pay me for anything. Like I'm just a guy or I'm just a girl. Like why would somebody come to me? And even more importantly, who do I think I am to help these people? I struggle with life. I struggle with all this. So who do I think I am to start a business? You and I worked through some of this very early during the pandemic and had some of these conversations. So share with us what your mindset was when you decided to make this transition.
Yeah, well, first of all, this happened obviously at the beginning of the pandemic. I knew I wanted to do something to give back. I just didn't know exactly what it was, right? And then so that's when you and I had a conversation and you kind of helped me define that. And the biggest thing for me at that time was I felt, especially talking about mentoring, the idea of to monetize this, right? To make money off of this. I quickly learned that, if what I hold, the information I have, there's value to it. That has value. And so therefore, it's not wrong to ask for money for my knowledge, for my services, right? That was the first kind of big kind of hurdle that I had to go over because it was just a mental thing, right? Or a mind thing where it was just like, I told myself, I don't know how I feel about this, but you and I talked and I was over that pretty quickly. But then, after that, I always knew I wanted to have some type of business, something for myself. I mean, I always thought about I love coffee. I wanted like a coffee shop. What else? What could I do, right? But then I started noticing that, prior to having the mentorship program, even, when I was still an assistant, I had a lot of people come up to me or write me through, social media, asking me, hey, advice. How do I get into scripted? I was just doing it, and I enjoyed it. I would sit, meet people for coffee. I would write emails, respond to everyone because I really did enjoy it. And I understood what it felt like to be on the other side. Like I knew the feeling and it had been pretty recent. I guess I'm always pretty sensitive to those things. I know people, I felt the pain, and so I understand when people are going through the same thing. I want to help. That's just who I am as a person. Then little by little, I just kind of started, had to figure things out, right? I just started listening to podcasts, reading articles, and changing my mindset, now to say being an artist to now say, being a business owner, right? I had to just kind of learn. And that was just really, again, committing mistakes, reading articles, and just soaking up as much knowledge as possible. And I learned that, you know, I guess, yeah, we are experts if we know. I mean, we don't have to be completely know everything, right? But I know enough. I mean, I know a lot. I can certainly guide someone, and that has a lot of value. We can be experts. We don't have to know everything, about, whatever it is that we're teaching. I mean, if we know more than the next person, I think that already makes us experts, right? I mean, like there's someone that probably knows more than me, like I'm saying, but I mean, doesn't mean that I can't create a business based on my knowledge. And then, I quickly realized that when I said, hey, you know what? I did it. I went from not having any experience to landing, in scripted, landing in a new city. And I went through the steps and I did it. I accomplished it. So of course I have a lot of knowledge to share. And that certainly has a lot of value. If I would have encountered that, say at the beginning, if I would have seen that someone offering those, services from, back in the day, trust me, I would have right there paid for it. It's like, of course, there's someone like speaking right to me. So yes, no, I mean, like but it is now changing that mindset. I think also for me, just simply, now, obviously getting older, I'm just, I'm really just kind of, my priorities are different and my goals are different. But it is changing kind of this mindset that really, needs to happen. And to me, it just really was, like I said, just talking to a lot of people, reading a lot, and then just creating this program, just going through the motions. Again, I'll say it again, making a lot of mistakes, but I knew I was not going to wait till things were perfect. Because if I did, we probably wouldn't even have launched the website by now, So I just needed to go for it. Here we go. We'll see what happens. Of course, as I go, I'm making changes, even with the podcast, I'm learning, just better workflow, better questions to ask. I feel much more comfortable on the mic. I mean, all these things, it's like, I don't stop learning, man, from and I text you, hey man, why did you tell me there was so much work? Because every time it's like,
all you have to do is upload an MP3, dude. It's not that hard. What's your problem?
I know, exactly. Right. But yeah, it's just been it's such a learning experience. But yeah, I don't think anyone has to. No, I don't think anyone has to. I understand it because I was there. I do get it. But yeah, you don't have to necessarily be, know everything. You already have enough knowledge to share, and that, about whatever topic it is that you want to talk about or teach, But it's like that has value. That certainly has value.
Yeah, and what you embody so perfectly that I think is something we don't talk about in this industry or frankly any other industry is how to redefine the term expert. People think an expert is top of their field, degrees, certifications, or a mentor, right? Like Walter Murch, he's an editing mentor. Dodie Dorn is an editing mentor. Thelma Schoonmaker, editing mentor, right? These are experts. But the way that I've redefined expert and the way that I teach it in my coaching program is that an expert is anybody that has gotten to where you want to be next. So would anybody say that a night assistant editor that's at an entry level at an unscripted company is an expert? Well, of course not, unless you're the college kid that just got out of school that desperately wants to be a night assistant editor at entry level doing logging at an unscripted company. Then that person is the world's foremost expert on the knowledge that you require next. So I say that, number one, for anybody listening that's thinking, well, it's great that Joaquin was able to do that, but he's on Narcos, so of course he's an expert in that field. I'm not an expert at anything. You are an expert to somebody. I don't care where you are. If you're a college kid, you are an expert to the high school kid that isn't sure how to manage his first year of college. So you need to rethink and redefine what you think an expert is. If you're thinking to yourself, well, what value could I possibly bring to the world? Just find the right people that are saying, how do I find the person that's here? If you're there, you become their expert. And now you rephrase that and think, if I'm here and I want to get there, who's my expert going to be? That's how I redefine the word expert and or mentor. And I think that that's absolutely key and crucial. And that's exactly what you've done. You didn't say, I'm an expert editor. You said, I'm an expert at telling you how to transition from this little tiny niche of being a scripted assistant editor or getting into scripted from somewhere else, and thus transitioning from assistant editor to editor because you've done it. So for somebody that's just a step or two behind you, you are their expert. My sincerest apologies for the interruption in the middle of this interview, but if you are a content creator or you work in the entertainment industry, not only is the following promo not an interruption, but listening has the potential to change your life, because collaborating with Evercast is that powerful. Here's a brief excerpt from a recent interview that I did with Evercast co-founders Brad Thomas and award-winning editor Roger Barton.
Living this lifestyle of a feature film editor has really had an impact on me. So I was really looking for something to push back against all of these lifestyle infringements that are imposed on us, both by schedules and expectations. When you guys demoed Evercast for me that first time, my jaw hit the floor. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I have been waiting for a decade.
I also had the same reaction when I first saw Evercast. 2 words came to mind: game changer.
Our goal, honestly, is to become the Zoom for creatives, whatever it is you're streaming, whether it's editorial, visual effects, Pro Tools for music composition, live shot cameras. It's consistent, audio and video, lip sync, always stays in sync. Whether you're in a live session where you're getting that feedback immediately, or you can't get it immediately, so you record the session and you can share those clips with people on the production team where there's no room for any confusion. It's like, this is exactly what the director wants. This is exactly what the producer wants.
What matters most to me is it makes the entire process more efficient, which then translates to us as creatives who spend way too much time in front of computers. We get to shut it down and we get to go spend time with our friends and family.
The biggest complaint, and I'm sure you guys have heard this many, many times, this looks amazing, I just can't afford it.
Tesla had to release the Model S before they released the Model 3. So by the end of the year, we are going to be releasing a sub $200 version a month of Evercast for the freelancer and indie creatives. Anyone who is a professional video creator outside of Hollywood.
I think what we've learned over the last few months is that this technology can translate to better lives for all of us, that give us more flexibility and control while still maintaining the creativity, the creative momentum, and the quality of work.
I cannot stress this enough. Evercast is changing the way that we collaborate. If you value your craft, your well-being, and spending quality time with the ones you love, Evercast now makes that possible for you and me. To listen to the full interview and learn about the amazing potential that Evercast has to change the way that you work and live, visit optimizeyourself.me/Evercast. Now back to today's interview.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I learned that even me, because yeah, exactly. That's who I back in the day, I remember I was, when I was in New York, there was one of the companies that I worked for, I knew the general manager. He was from the same town that I was from. He was very successful. And I said to myself, I want to learn from that guy, right? He comes from the same town. We speak the same language. Like, how did you do it? That's as simple as that. So I remember I asked him, hey, could you be my mentor? And he said yes. And because I always have known that it's like, hey, you're successful. You did it. I want to learn from you, right? And like you said, it's like, then that person becomes the expert in that for you. And so, yeah, I mean, like now, for example, obviously the way we learn, I think, has changed a lot, especially through this pandemic. I mean, now going through, I don't know anything about, like, say, cooking or building things, whatever. There's so many people you can find, and you can find your YouTube channel, or you can find their courses or whatever. That's, we're going through this new kind of era of learning, but it makes sense. Yeah, I want this person doesn't have to have, let's say, millions and whatever followers. I mean, like, this guy can knows how to, I don't know, build furniture. Oh, sure, I want to learn from that guy. He knows way more than I do. But so yeah, I agree with the way you described it. It's say in my case, for example, yeah, I've been through the process. It worked, so I can certainly teach you all about it and kind of guide you, because I've been there. I've been through the trenches. I can certainly talk about it.
I think the other key too that I want to go back to that's so important is this idea of consuming information versus taking action. I saw this firsthand with you. I talked to several people right when the pandemic started that were in a similar place as you. They reached out and they said, I've always thought about kind of doing my own thing. I really admire what you've done with the podcast, and now you're teaching courses and you're doing the whole thing. That's great. Help me to do the same thing. So I had multiple conversations with people. But with you, within about a month, it went from, oh, I'm thinking of this to, hey, dude, I got my website up, got my first paid client, I'm doing my thing. I'm like, what? Like it took me years to get to this point. Joaquin's got a business in a month. But the key here is you said, I listened to podcasts, I read articles, but you took action. And the vast majority of people that are out here trying to do this that might be listening right now, it's consume, 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 consume. Nope. I just got to watch one more course or one more YouTube video before I can really dive in. And you said, nope, I'm just going to build it. I'm going to suck. I'm going to fail. It goes back to this whole theme of the conversation is you decided to fail first and fail forwards. Mm-hmm. And within a month of you and I having the initial conversation, you're like, yep, just got a paid client. And you're probably not making a living off of it yet. But tell me about the mindset shift, because this is such an important one. I had the same experience where I had spent years with what I call a really expensive hobby, which was me with fitness and post, where every month I just took money and I threw it into a fire. Here you go. Here's my money. Just kept throwing it into the fire, thinking to myself, this is a passion. This is a hobby. But my mindset changed the first time somebody paid me $97. I'm like, oh my God, this completely changes the game. It wasn't even $100. But when I got that $97 charge and I got the email, I said, this changes my life if I can repeat this and do it over and over and over. Talk to me specifically about the moment where you went from, I'm going to try to do this thing to, oh my God, somebody just paid me real money for this.
Yeah, no, I remember that moment really well. I remember my first, mentee, who paid me for my 8-week, mentorship program, who actually, I was just talking to her, before you and I started recording this. Yeah, the first time when she hired me, I was like, wow, like, this, I had not made a sales push. The website was, was not complete. Probably had my picture, a couple, lines of text. And so when she said, yeah, I want to hire you. And we started doing the program. And then, she was a recent grad from, Chapman University, had just graduated, is looking to, move to Hollywood and work in post. And so when I started going through the classes, and I first of all realized, whoa, there's a lot. I can teach a lot. There's a lot of stuff to go through. I don't think 8 weeks is going to be enough. She did not finish the program and got her first job. When that happened, to me, it was like, I think this, I don't have kids. I feel like that's what a proud parent feels like, that feeling. Because we didn't get to finish it. And she was able to get her first job in post-production in Hollywood. Obviously she did the work. But it was through my guidance, right? None of the stuff that she was not aware of, any of the stuff that I had talked to her about, I showed her, and she was able to get that job even before we finished. And to me, I said, all right, like, this is it. It works, right? And I just, that feeling that I had, I can't describe it, man. The best way to say it is like, just like a proud parent, right? And that definitely motivated me to keep going. And then I got the next, client. And then, none from not making really any, this is all organic. I have not, was not making, a heavy sales push or anything. It's just happened organically. You're right. I don't, I can't live off of it. I had, but just saying that at that moment, in the beginning, that's what really kind of motivated me to say, hey, I have a lot of knowledge to share. And then so as I just started going to writing articles, people reacting to it, responding to it, they just write out of the blue. Hey, I love what you wrote. I love your podcast. Like, that was great. Everyone, kind of connects with a different guest. To me, that motivates me a lot. I always tell people that support when I see, wow, that people are like, I've had like parents of someone like the people I work with, or like guests on the show contact me, parents like say, hey, I just love what you're doing. Thank you. And it's like, wow, I just, it just, I don't know. I never, I guess thought, I always thought of post-production as just simply editing. But now seeing this side of it, I'm sure you understand, of helping people is like, mentoring. It's so, it's just so fulfilling, so gratifying. It's a different feeling. And I knew that it was something that I always wanted to do. And I just like the feeling of it. To be able to say, I can help people.
Yeah, I can relate to all of that. I mean, the proud parent moments happen all the time. And they're essentially what keep me going. And I think that it's so important for anybody that's listening to this right now, that's thinking to themselves, either I might want to start my own thing, but I'm afraid to start it or whatever. But now I have to go from being an artist, all of a sudden becoming a business owner. That's really, really scary. It's a slow progression. To this day, I'm still balancing editing Cobra Kai and doing what I'm doing, which just, if you look at my calendar, you find out how batshit crazy it is to try and balance all of these things. But the way that this machine keeps rolling, it just starts with that one outreach email. There are at least 3 distinctive times I remember where I said, I'm done. This isn't yielding results. This is so hard. And I'm just not getting where I want to get. Or I had this idea of where I'm supposed to be and I wasn't. And then I say, I'm done. I'm going to turn off the website and the podcast. It's just too much work. And then ding, email in the inbox. I just wanted to let you know I listened to this episode. I had no idea that standing desks were even a thing. I tried it out. I feel so much better. It's like you changed the whole way I work. Damn it. Now I got to keep doing this. I can't quit now. And then that's just this snowball that rolls down the hill. And now, at least on a weekly basis, I'm getting messages in our Slack community. Just got an interview and got a job on this huge show and this big show. And I finally made this transition. Like, it's just like gasoline on a fire. And it's so much fun. And I think that's kind of going back to the question of, well, who am I to think that I can do this? The business model that you've taken on is very similar to my business model, where we only succeed if we provide a tremendous amount of value to people. And the vast majority of that value is free. 98% of the people that I help never pay me a cent. And it's the same thing for you. But those 2%, they're the ones to help keep the lights on so we can provide value for the other 98%. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I still to this day have this experience where people say, oh, that's so nice of you to be doing the podcast and writing the articles. Like that's so great that you offer that service and help all of us. I'm like, yeah, but you do know it's a business, right? They have no idea that I generate any income whatsoever. But the impression of it is that I'm doing it as a public service. That to me is the perfect sweet spot where I'm doing everyone a public service and providing value, but it also helps me support myself because the more I grow, the more public service I can provide, which is exactly what you are doing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, first of all, I got to say, just like you, there was those certainly moments where I was like, man, like it's like a week, every week is different. And, at times, I was like, man, this is not working out, and then the next week I would get an email or a comment and I'm like, all right, no, wow, it's great. And so I kept going. It just goes back and forth. Right. But, that's just kind of, it certainly has been, again, a learning experience. I started creating, and I still do. I mean, plenty of free content. I mean, in the end, because like I said before, that's what I used to do. I loved meeting with people and wrote back, replied to every email. I'm not going to stop that all of a sudden and say like, well, now you need to pay me, right? To talk to me or no, I still want to do it. I still want to help people. If you want to go, further into it and, have a more one-on-one, relationship and, then by all means, let's do it. But, I do genuinely like helping people out. I mean, I want to give out as much, free advice as possible for sure. But I also do want to give the opportunity to people to say, if you want to, dive deeper into this stuff, certainly, there's that opportunity,
Well, there's a story that comes to mind. It's a parable that I'm sure I'm going to butcher. But have you ever heard the story of Picasso and the napkin?
I'm not familiar with it.
So, like I said, I'm going to butcher it because it's been paraphrased in so many different ways. But it said that Picasso was having lunch with someone. And they asked, hey, could you draw this thing, like some image or whatever it was? And he just drew it on a napkin. It took him a few minutes. And the person looked at it and they said, this is amazing. This is gorgeous. And he said, if you'd like it, it'll just be $15,000. And they said, well, are you crazy? It took you like 5 minutes to draw that. He said, no, it took me 30 years to draw this. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. And that's the part that people miss. They think that our value is all about the amount of time that we're giving. And no. It's not about you're worth this amount of minutes or this amount of hours. It's here's the value that I bring to you. It's not just, well, wait a second. I thought we were only meeting for 60 minutes. And when I talk to somebody else that does this other thing, that's for 60 minutes and they charge this. It's not about the time. What value and expertise can you bring to the conversation? Which goes back to anybody thinking, well, I'm not an expert. Again, yes, you are. You can provide value to the right person if you find them. And that was one of the things that I wanted to talk about next, where you and I dove deep into this process. You realize, I want to make this transition. I want to go from being an artist to being an entrepreneur, or combining both, because you're obviously not giving up the artistry and the editing, but you're combining these two. And all of a sudden you get a taste of what it's like to start working with somebody. But then the question becomes, yeah, but how do I actually help people? What do I do? I'm so stuck. Like, how do I do this? And the simplest answer is that you ask. So talk to me a little bit more about your process of learning, how can I actually provide value? Because so many people get stuck at this point.
Well, first of all, like I tell people, I need to also improve, myself and work on myself in order to provide a service to someone, to offer guidance, right? So I'm constantly also always, learning about myself, reading books, I'm, meditating, everything. I put in that work with me before I can obviously then offer that to someone else. I'm constantly doing that. It's about, yes, asking a lot of questions, asking a lot of questions to people, telling them that, hey, I'm here to listen, right? I'm here to listen. And because I know what it feels like. You want someone just to sometimes just listen to you. That's what it is. I had this conversation with one of my mentees. It's like, sometimes I just want someone to hear me and that I can bounce ideas off of, especially someone who knows what I'm talking about, or say we work in the same area, sometimes that's all it is. And so I like to and like I said, I really enjoy listening to people talk. I enjoy hearing stories and other people's experiences. And so that's what I do. I like to listen. I like to ask a lot of questions. And then, now, like I said, I've been doing this, in general for, working in post and media for like close to 20 years. I've been in many scenarios, things that they don't teach you this stuff in school. I mean, like, this is stuff that you have to actually live through. You have to be in that room with that showrunner, specific situations that there's no way to like recreate it, right? Whatever, if you're dealing or stuff that you're dealing with the Avid or anything, it's these things that I've been through that I can certainly talk about and guide you through. And I think that's where the value is, right? I mean, this, like I said, now, like I said, for 20 years or close to 20 years of experience that I'm bringing to this. Even though, for example, let's say I've only been in scripted, say, for, 3 years, but, I've been dealing with producers for, like I said, almost 20 years and been in crazy, situations. I used to work a lot in live TV. I've now worked in New York, and obviously LA, San Diego. I worked in Mexico. I mean, there's a lot I bring to the table, right? There's certainly, I can speak a lot about many situations. I've been, and also like just the more personal kind of emotional things. Cause like I said, I've been through those, panic attacks, anxiety attacks, all these things. I've been through the financial stuff. It's like, but this is just kind of, experience that I've acquired over so many years. But so, yeah, I really just like to discover what people, I like to build relationships and discover who people are. And so that I can best serve them. And, this is all, my program, it's all, it's custom tailored to their needs, to the mentee's needs. And, it's a lot about listening. So having someone there to really be, have tolerant and, and to be understanding and to be, like I said, just like someone that can hold your hand, right? That's really important because it's just what I needed when I was doing it. I understand being in a situation.
So now I want to talk about the elephant in the room. This is going to be a fear that a lot of people have. And the elephant in the room is that you're my competition. You're doing what I'm doing. And you're going after my clients and you're taking money out of my pocket. How dare you? You're trying to do what I'm doing, right?
Right.
And a lot of people get this thought in their minds, why should I do this? Other people are already doing it. There's no more space for me. So why didn't you have that fear? Why didn't you think to myself, why would I mentor assistant editors that want to make the transition to editor? Somebody else is already doing it. Why did you overcome that fear?
Because I overcame that fear because I just knew I could put my own twist on it, right? It was my personal project. And so, yeah, sure, you can have, say, many different people doing the same thing, but everyone's going to do it differently, right? We're all going to have our different ingredients, our formulas. And so there is plenty of room for more people to join in and do this stuff, because everyone's going to put their own spin on it. We all have different personalities. Certain people are going to connect with us. Like certain people are going to connect with me. Maybe some people are going to connect with you. Like it's just like any other relationship, right? I mean, it's just you're just going to connect with different people, and so there is definitely room, say, for more competition, or other people kind of, like I said, doing the same thing, because we're all going to kind of put our spin on it. But yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I mean, but yeah, I mean that's I just knew that this was just kind of, hey, I want to put my own spin on this, my own flavor. And so that really is what got me over that fear. Did I think about it? Absolutely, dude. Of course. I mean, I'm glad you brought it up.
That's why I called it the elephant in the room.
Exactly. No. And you and I, we had never, really, talked about it, right? I mean, it was just always kind of like, well, yeah, I'm just gonna do my thing. It's not even thinking about, say, what you do. I have not, say, taken your program, right? I mean, obviously you and I talk a lot, and we share ideas and whatnot, but and I listen to your podcast and I read your articles. But in the end, it's like I focus on myself. I just said, just do what you do. Do it your way. Don't think about anyone else. Nothing. Just write about what you want to write about. Do the podcast the way you want to do it. And that should be, I think, the focus for anyone. Just focus on your idea and execute it. Don't think about anything external. Don't worry about the competition. Just if you start worrying about the competition, that's where you're going to stumble. And so it's important to just focus on your idea and just execute it.
I love that. That's actually one of the core key mindsets that I teach in my program, is that you have to learn how to run your own race. Something I've seen in many, many Spartan races, and they even talk about it. I went through a private Spartan event where they take you behind the scenes and they have top trainers that are teaching you the tricks of the obstacles and whatnot. And they say that everybody gets so caught up in going through the race and looking at everybody else and saying, they're not doing their burpees, or how come they're doing it this way? And they get so caught up in it that they're wasting all this energy. Just run your own race. Focus on what you are doing, not what everybody else is doing. But I think the other key here is that you're doing it differently than I am. You are serving different people that have different stories that are going to say, you know what? Zach talks about a lot of the same stuff, but Joaquin's my guy. He's going to get me more, and we're going to connect more. And the way that I see it, so if I'm looking at it from my perspective and somebody's asking, well, why would you have Joaquin on the podcast? And why would you potentially take somebody listening that's like, I was going to give Zach money, but now I'm going to give it to Joaquin instead? Well, I'm going to tell you why I would do that. I believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. And the better I can make you, the more that's going to encourage other people to do the same thing and provide value to others. That's the first part of it. The second part, this is something that I've learned from my ninja training. I heard this from a big name ninja, and this is a very pervasive mentality. And it's very unique to the ninja sport. This is one of the reasons that I gravitated towards it, is that you see them, they're encouraging each other. They're helping each other. There's no competition. It's not a matter of, there's no trash talk. It's not the WWE or professional sports. And one time somebody asked, like, why do you guys encourage each other and actually give away your secrets? And they say, it's because if I'm going to be number one, I want to beat somebody else on their best day, not their worst day. So the better I make them, by default, the better I have to make myself, because my competition gets better. And I don't see us as competition at all. Like I don't see it that way, which is why I want to support you as much as I can. But even if I did, the better I make you, the more that forces me to get better too, because now I know that you're on my coattails and I got to keep up, right? And that's not the way that I see it. But I feel that if I can support you, other people are going to feel like, oh, maybe I can do this too. Then all of a sudden this just becomes a thing. Because when I started this, nobody was doing this in our field. It's not like I didn't invent the wheel. Many people are doing it in other fields, but nobody was doing it in this one. So if you can do it and encourage somebody else to do it, now all of a sudden it's a thing. And now we can all support each other. That to me is really exciting.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, and thank you, honestly, Zach, because, obviously it's funny that we're doing it here, right, on the podcast. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's important just for everyone, right? It's like, I think going back to this idea of comfort, I certainly recognize it. I need to kind of, every once in a while, I need to kind of check myself and see, all right, I got to, with whatever I'm doing, how can I get better? Because I could easily get comfortable with something. And so I do recognize that at times I need to, encounter new challenges or something to just get me going, right? I don't want to just get comfortable with things. So I think, yeah, no, certainly that's important, right? And it's idea again. I think it's connection. Like I certainly see it. Like for example, the podcast, the hosts that I listen to, or like people who are out there doing courses or YouTube videos. I recognize who I connect with, right? Like I might watch, say, two people doing this, talking about the same thing. I'm sure going to connect, more with the another one, right? The other one person than the other. So it's important to find that person that you truly connect with. And yeah, if we can get more people to, again, like you said, if more people start doing this, then more people that other people could connect with, right? Other students, mentees, whatever you want to identify them as. But yes, you create more options, and it's just like people are going to find what they're looking for with I think personalities and just the product, because everyone's going to just do it differently.
Well, speaking of the product and mentorship and everything else, now is the shameless plug portion of the show where if somebody is listening and they say, man, I think Joaquin might be my guy. He seems to get me, and I'm looking for that mentor or quote unquote expert. That's where I want to be next. Talk to people about how they can find you and talk about all of the various services, skills, everything that you cover. Like just do the shameless pitch for Hollywood Editing Mentor.
Man, so yeah, Hollywood Editing Mentor can be found at hollywoodeditingmentor.com. There is a lot of, free advice on there. I have a lot of, written articles, a lot of video tutorials, say on, for example, from like how to join the union, how to build your, scripted TV project in Avid. I've had, guest, writers on there such as Augie Rexach. And so there's that. I have obviously the podcast on there where I talk to, a lot of Emmy nominated editors and assistant editors. I'm going to be talking to other people, who are working in post, and just sharing their stories. Again, it's like the way that I approach things is like, I just like to share stories, just so you can see that everyone does it differently. That's a big, what I teach, a big part of it is saying, hey, like everyone has their own journey. Just listening to these people and see how they're doing it. These are all very successful people. Like listen to those people and then look at the people who are not doing it and see what they're not doing, right? And just compare, see what works. You can clearly see these things. So what I offer though as my services, I do offer at the moment a 4-week and an 8-week mentorship program where, we meet once a week for, a certain amount of time. And so we go over whatever the mentee wants to talk about. For example, it could be, say, if you want to focus on the hard skills, say you want to focus on learning Avid, say the scripted, assistant editor workflow, we can do that. If you want to learn more about the soft skills, we can talk about that. Say like, time management, building relationships, communicating, say with your editor, resume building, all those things, or a mix of both, whatever it is. I'm, basically, want to make sure that I address the issues, say, that you're dealing with, right? So it's very custom tailored. And it's a 4-week or 8-week program. I do have a private community where all of my mentees could certainly meet and talk, and whether it be about, say, someone knows about a job, or you want to just share some funny stories or industry news, anything. It's about building a community where we help each other out. I want to take the networking game, take it to the next level, take it, make it different. I am all about building relationships and building a community. I'm working on putting together some online video courses. Some people might not want to do the one-on-one coaching. And so I want to offer, online video courses that people can just kind of go through them at their own pace. I will also, I'm working on putting together group classes if people prefer to work, say, also one-on-one, but more with a group, right? I'm putting that together. And so, but everything can be found at hollywoodeditingmentor.com. Like I said, I'm someone here that has been through a lot, has experienced a lot, has committed a lot of mistakes. I can save people a lot of time. That's what I tell people. I wish it's like one person I worked with, he simply did not have a Facebook account, did not know the networking game, say on Facebook. He had never used it. All I did was I showed him how to do it. I showed him these things, right? And his mind was blown. He was like, oh my God, this is the community that's out there on Facebook and all that. He discovered so many things. That could be months, a year, someone discovers that. Maybe never, because you're just like, I don't want to open a Facebook account, right? Or whatever it is. But this idea of saving someone so much time, honestly, I'm telling you from my experience, I wish someone could have saved me. It took me over a year to get into scripted. If I could have done it, in 2-3 months, wow, look at all the time I've saved, right? And time is money. And so I tell people this, I want to save you time and stress. And I just give you, here's what you need to know. Don't look at, just package it all in. Here's what you need to know. And let's focus on that and just go for it, right? And it's someone here that is understanding of what you're going through, because I've been through it. I know that feeling of, like I said, being out there alone and not having someone guide you. I know the importance of that. And here's someone that's here to listen to you and give you advice, and hopefully we can build a relationship and stay, honestly, we can stay friends, become friends and connected forever. This is the idea, is to meet new people, to build a community, and we definitely want to help each other out. So, that's what the Hollywood Editing Mentor program is all about. Again, find it at hollywoodeditingmentor.com. I'm happy I enjoy it. That's the thing. I've discovered through this process that how much I just honestly enjoy it, working with people. It's something that I truly like. I like meeting new people, meeting new friends. So this is a space, space for you to come. It's safe. It's somewhere where you can just kind of share whatever's on your mind, and have someone just bounce off ideas off from another person, and connect. Hopefully, build a connection.
I love it. You're looking for your new best friend. HollywoodEditingMentor.com. Joaquin, I'm so glad we finally got this on the record. I can't wait for people to listen to it and be inspired by your story, and hopefully be inspired to work with you. So thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, Zach. And honestly, like I've always told you, I'll say it again. Thank you for everything that you've done for me and how you've helped me out. I truly, thank you for I cannot thank you enough. Honestly.
You bet. I'm more than happy to help. And like I said, the better I make you, the better it makes me in return. So it's all about all of us getting better at the same time. The rising tide lifts all boats. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Zach.
Before closing up today's show, I would love to ask for just a couple additional minutes of your time and attention to introduce you to one of my new favorite products created by my good friend Kit Perkins, who you may recognize as creator of the Topomat. Here is a brief excerpt from a recent interview that I did with Ergo-Driven co-founder and CEO Kit Perkins, talking about his latest product, New Standard Whole Protein.
I'm into health and fitness generally, but I want it to be simple and straightforward. About a year and a half ago, I started adding collagen into my protein shakes. And man, the benefits were like more dramatic than any supplement I've ever seen. So I thought, if I could just get this down to coming out of one jar, and it's ingredients that I know I can trust, and you just put it in water and you don't have to think about it.
When people think of protein powders, they think, well, I don't want to get big and bulky. And that's not what this is about. To me, this is about repair.
So a big part of what we're talking about here is you are what you eat. Your body's constantly repairing and rebuilding, and the only stuff it can use to repair and rebuild is what you've been eating. Unfortunately, as the years have gone by, every day getting out of bed, it's like 2 or 3 creaks and pops in the first couple steps, and that I thought you just sort of lived with now. But yeah, once starting the collagen daily or near daily, it's just gone. So for us, job 1A here was make sure it's high quality, and that's grass-fed, 100% pasture-raised cows. And then the second thing, if you're actually going to do it every day, it needs to be simple, it needs to taste good.
Well, my goal is that for anybody that is a creative professional like myself that's stuck in front of a computer, number one, they're doing it standing on a Topomat. Number two, they've got a glass of New Standard Protein next to them so they can just fuel their body, fuel their brain. So you and I, my friend, one edit station at a time are going to change the world.
And even better for your listeners, with code OPTIMIZE, on either a one-time purchase or that first subscribe and save order, 50% off. So if you do that subscribe and save, that's 20% off and 50% off with code OPTIMIZE. That's a fantastic deal.
If you're looking for a simple and affordable way to stay energetic, focused, and alleviate the chronic aches and pains that come from living at your computer, I recommend New Standard Whole Protein because it's sourced from high-quality ingredients that I trust, and it tastes great. To place your first order, visit optimizeyourself.me/newstandard and use the code OPTIMIZE for 50% off your first order. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Optimize Yourself podcast. To access the show notes for this and all previous episodes, as well as to subscribe so you don't miss future interviews just like this one, please visit optimizeyourself.me/podcast. And don't forget that if you are inspired to take your networking game to a whole new level, but your outreach email game is just a bit weak, you get 100% free access to my new, improved, and upgraded Insider's Guide to Writing Amazing Outreach Emails, which is available for free to download at optimizeyourself.me/email guide. And lastly, a special thanks to our sponsors, Evercast and ErgoDriven, for making today's interview possible. To learn more about how to collaborate remotely without missing a frame and get your real-time demo of Evercast in action, visit optimizeyourself.me/Evercast. And to learn more about ErgoDriven and their brand new product that I am super excited about, New Standard Whole Protein, visit optimizeyourself.me/newstandard. Thank you for listening. Stay safe, healthy, and sane, and be well.